Hey, it's Chris from PCA UCR. I'm here with Paul Neto, who's also with UCR. Hey, Paul.
Hey everyone. Hey Chris. Thanks for having me on.
So you started the UCR Sim Racing League.
Yes, I couldn't resist. I couldn't resist. It's been challenging year, in many ways for many people. And one of the ways to combat this isolation and lockdown is spend time racing.
So what is sim racing?
Well, this can be an hour on its own. But if I was to break it down into its most simple terms, is it's a video game. And for a long time there's been some of the classics. There was like pole position, and recent years you have the Forza on Xbox, and you have the Gran Turismo on PlayStation. And just like those, you can jump and feel like you're driving a car. But those I would describe as, and especially as you start getting into the Assetto courses and iRacing and stuff, there's this distinct line where one is a video game and you can have fun, and the other one is more, I'd say, really geared to be a simulator. And what I mean is that it really goes that next level into immersion and making you feel like you're actually driving a car on real tracks. For example, the tracks are many of the ones that we know, including, Canadian Tire Motorsports Park, Mossport. And these are laser scan tracks down to the millimeter. The other side of it is there's a bunch of interesting technology they develop where they have things like tire models. And when the tire model changes, all of a sudden the behavior of cars and everything start to change. So this is how certain types of tire compounds react to pavement and temperature and suspension, and to different dynamics of a car. So when you mix these things together, there's times I'm going around Mossport and I recognize some of the different bumps and feeling and the input from the steering wheel. And there's also this whole it's really geared about community and having people race. So there's leagues and there's licenses, and the racecraft and the engagement and everything really comes all together in an interesting package. And that's not even getting into the discussion around like sim rigs and VR and all those different things. So it really becomes an advanced way of driving in a virtual environment. And we've been really lucky because in the last 3 to 5 years, computing power has gone up, costs have gone down. Even things like VR, what cost $3,000 2 years ago, well, $349 now, you get a decent VR system that you can plug in and level of immersion. So there's all these interesting technologies and stuff that have come together where sim racing has really kind of taken off.
Yeah, it's great. The whole reason for me getting into iRacing was because I wanted to drive a Porsche on Mosport during COVID. We got knocked off the track last year through DE. The DE program was very limited to the people that could participate, and so I just wanted to stay on the track, and I wanted it to be Mosport in a Porsche, and so I got into iRacing specifically for that reason. But then I've now, thanks to you particularly, starting up the UCR League, we're having fun with that. So let's get into that. How has PCA and UCR embraced iRacing and sim racing?
Yeah, one of the things I quickly found out that at a national level, there's a program, and they're quite active. They just broke over 500 members. Every week they run an EDE where they get people on a track in these virtual cars and such, and they do a number of driving exercises. They do one-on-one exercises with individuals. They have a series of practice races, and every Friday they have a race. And they're also organized by zone levels and how you place. You can then compete against other zones. So it's quite established over a pretty short amount of time. Now, what's different, from what I understand from historically the PCA is usually initiatives start at the the club level, and they kind of grow from there. Whereas this has kind of been the other way around. So we're really just at a point where there's efforts being put to develop sim racing at the club level, and we thought it'd be interesting to get a number of individuals from UCR. After all, we have, was it almost 5,000 individuals who are looking to do something to do in the off season. And increasingly, there's more racers, there's people trying to keep their brain sharp in the off season and just going through through the motions. So we've set up a local group. We have 35 people that have signed up, and we've started a mini league where race 4 of 6 so far. And it's interesting to watch as we progress through this. People are, it's very collegial, but people are, you see them picking up pace, their skills are improving. We also do, so we have a race every Sunday night. We have a practice race on, Saturday evenings, and Thursday evenings, we just have some, open lapping. So it's been a really great way to, connect, people during this time. And it's a good range of people. There's individuals who are racers, who are actual racers and run, PCA and other events. We have other individuals who have, participated in, the DE program, but we also have some other individuals that, they just kind of follow the magazine, and they're kind of, new to this, and, they have a car at home, they don't track it. And a handful of people have reached out saying, hey, this is interesting. What do I need to do? What kind of computer do I need? And they've purposely built their own system, and they've, joined in, and, we're all building, they say it's about the people. And this has been a good example where I feel like I know these people, and I just kind of chase them around in these virtual environments. So it's been a good experience. In the real world, I drive a 944. So this is really the only opportunity I can keep up to, some of these people. Like where this season is the RSR, and it's a supercar by every definition. So this, like I said, this is one of the few times I can keep up with people going around Mosport and other tracks. We're very fortunate because like esports has taken off.
Mm-hmm.
It is now a recognized industry. And it's everything from like FIFA games to whatever battle game people are playing these days. And we're very fortunate because I think sim racing is extremely unique. There's no other esport where you get to engage with normal controls. Like you can be sitting in a racing seat, you have pedals, you have a steering wheel, you have multiple screens or VR, you've got the sound and everything, and there's very tactile inputs. You don't get that in, if you're playing an esport that's, like FIFA, you're not kicking a ball.
Mm-hmm.
So there's, these motion systems and that. So there is nothing that has translated so well between the online to the offline world. And I think there's a lot of interesting opportunities. It's like opening up a whole series of, I think, learning opportunities for us. Like, one of the things I've started making a bunch of little tutorials. Well, let's do a track walk from the position of being in the car around Mosport. Like, where is this useful? Well, people who've never been there, or, Mosport can be a very intimidating track. Well, what about people coming from other areas that are a little intimidated at first? Are there any good videos out there of somebody walking through, talking about turning points, or, how do you approach corner number 1? Or one of the tutorials I did is what's the most efficient way to go up the back straight? There isn't.
And this is terrific because you're coming to it as a DE instructor in real life and using the sim as your platform to communicate. But you're taking the principles that you learned and that you instruct at the actual course.
Exactly. So the more you kind of get involved in it, you start seeing that there is benefits from, from the two worlds. And I probably will never get an opportunity to drive an RSR around the track. And this way, you can do it from the comfort of your home
and try out those different tracks. Being able to get to a Summit Point or a Daytona and do a whole series of tracks, one after another, week after week, be impossible unless you're an actual professional racer.
Yeah, exactly. And it's a lot cheaper.
Especially when you crash. Why would somebody want to get into this?
Well, there's a number of reasons. One is just to have fun. The other reason is if you are a driving enthusiast, and we have this thing called winter and cold weather and stuff, it's a great way to keep your mind sharp. And, as human beings, we're very good at placing ourselves into different different situations. And even if you're at the end of competing and going into racing, we see most professionals now are using some kind of sim to keep themselves sharp, to practice specific things and then take it to the track. Like we discussed, if you're planning to go down to Road Atlanta or to Watkins Glen, well, there's some value to spend time to understand what the turns are versus just watching a YouTube video, having some, tactile input. But I also do believe that there's a number of training exercises, that are possible. I think the most difficult one in these systems is the whole braking sensation. Mm-hmm. Acceleration kind of comes naturally to us. The braking one, after a while, you start naturally calibrating from one system to another, to the point that, well, braking in real life and on the sim is actually quite similar, like feeling for that lockup point and stuff. Just you have to do a calibration to get used to it. But there's some really useful things that you can do. Like, for example, I work on vision in the sim. Mm-hmm. Where are you looking and when are you looking? And, a prime example, one of the best points of instruction I had going around, Canadian Tire Motorsport Park is, 5A and B and lining up for, the top of the straight, that as you're at the top, before you go into 5B, to kind of turn your head and look up the straight. Mm. And when you do that, it kind of carries you around perfectly to the apex, and there's just this natural motion that starts to happen. I do the exact same thing in sim, and I practice that. Yeah. Or I'm going into 8, I'm kind of looking up. I'm purposely looking up. So you can practice all those things. The other piece is we don't often get to practice some of the basic things of racecraft. You get into your first races, and you're a mess. Like, you're all over the place. You're bumping into things. All of a sudden, I can't go around the corner because now we have these, the audible sensation of people around you and seeing different things. And after a while, you're practicing patience to go into a corner so you can pass somebody. So I believe a lot of these motions are very translates well into just how we think about driving and things around us, and how we're approaching corners and braking, and like we said, learning new tracks. The other bit that's particularly exciting is there's all these really cool plugins. One of the ones is Virtual Racing School. Yep. So you sign up for free, and every lap is then all the telemetry is recorded. And if you have a couple friends, you can then start sharing the telemetry, and you can start looking at, oh, here I'm braking a little bit later than you are, but you're coming out, 2 kilometers an hour faster. So this all of a sudden takes you to another level of thinking about how you drive or how you try to navigate around these, different corners. So that takes you, just totally opens up your eyes, what, data collection and understanding, the forces and the dynamics, and, this slow in out fast. Well, you can demonstrate that with data. And this is a really low barrier to get in to try to understand this stuff. It's
not familiar with the term telemetry, We're talking things like steering angle, the angle of your steering wheel.
Yeah.
We're talking about throttle, how much throttle you have or the lack of, how much brake or not, your actual turning, your line around, showing where you hit the apex and came out. That all of that data is collected by Virtual Racing School, and you're able to overlay a lap of the professionals with your own lap, and then be able to start pick apart your turn points, your throttle response, and that kind of thing. So it's a really nice way of learning. So somebody wants to get into this. What do they need? How do they get started? What kind of equipment do they need? Do they need to spend $30,000 on a motion sensing, motion driving rig? The answer is no.
The most basic thing that you need is a computer, a PC, and generally anything that's within the last 3 or 4 years should be sufficient. If you go to PCA simracing.com, or just reach out to me, and on our the UCR site on under driving, there's some sim racing, and there's some basic specifications are required. So you need a basic computer. You probably want to get a steering wheel and pedal set, and now this can be on your dining room table if you want. A basic monitor. So pedal system is $300 and some dollars. A monitor is under $200 now, and $1,000, $1,500, you have a decent computer. Now, as with everything else, there is no ceiling to what you want to spend. Other than that, all you need is an iRacing subscription, which is about $110 a year, and you can buy different tracks and cars outside of the ones that come with it. So it's relatively low to get into. I probably spend more on a set of tires of my car than I do on sim racing, so it's relatively cost effective.
And if you wanted to go VR headset, $500-ish for a headset, and that would eliminate the need for any kind of big system, because now you can sit in your chair with your steering wheel and your pedals with a VR headset on and be immersed in a racing car with very little space required. So sometimes you see those big rigs that take up a bit, the room size, but this is like a chair and a headset and a steering wheel and pedals. So you can be a very small system, physically speaking.
Yeah, in my system, I have a 3 32-inch monitors. I also have a VR system, and I kind of and I'm using the Quest 2, which was like the hottest gift at Christmas.
Yep.
And I get after about 40 minutes, I get a little bit of motion sickness. So I tend to use the 3 monitors, and that was a bit of an eye opener as well when I went from a single to 3. Is all of a sudden you can turn your head and you can look out your window, you can look out that window, and you see people beside you, and all of a sudden it really comes alive. But once you get into the VR thing, it's actually difficult to describe what the level of immersion you get from that.
Well, I'd love to talk to somebody who's brand new to this, and so we brought in Matt Woodcroft, who's also a UCR member. Let's go talk to Matt about his experience.
Hey guys, how are you? Thanks for inviting me.
Thanks for joining.
Yeah, no,
so,
happy to do it.
What brought you to iRacing and to the UCR League?
Yeah, I had seen the emails and that just explaining what was happening in some of the national programs, and I went on the site a couple of times, but thought what, maybe this is too much to get into or whatever, and then as you guys had mentioned, wintertime in Canada, where not a lot of things to do, and I love to ski, and skiing has been shut down as well. So just looking for something to fill some time. And so I looked at it again and talked to my son, I'm an Apple guy, so I didn't have a PC, so I had to try and figure that out. But thankfully, one of my kids is very talented that way, so he was able to quickly figure out what we needed and get it all set up. So yeah, really just something to do in the winter. And I've been participating in the UCR calls, in Zoom calls, and so you sort of get to know some of the guys and familiar faces, and it's a good bunch, and it's been it hasn't been disappointing at all. It's been fantastic. So
right on. And do you do DE in real life or not yet?
No, I've never tracked a car. I'm kind of I'm a car and motorcycle guy, and just passionate about it, but I've never been on a track with a car. I'll have to do that at some point. I think candidly, I've probably been a little reticent to do that. Just, like anybody, I think, you think about taking what is, for most people, their prized automotive possession, I guess, and putting it out on a track and that. But I think this was a good start, very low risk way of introducing yourself to racing and what it's all about.
Yeah, it's a great way to get on the track. So what have your first steps been, and how have you enjoyed it so far?
Yeah, the first steps, I actually connected with Paul, and we had a great conversation one night, and within a couple of days I had a system set up, ready to go, and I got just a wheel and pedals from from Best Buy or whatever, just like a Logitech G920, and that seems to work fantastic. The feedback from the wheel that you get, you really do feel the speed. You feel like you're in the car. I mean, and you can feel the track. It's an amazing thing, just from somebody that's never really been a big video game person. This stuff to me is a little bit beyond just a video game. It really is. Like, simulator is much more accurate. It certainly is very immersive. And you guys talking about VR, I think that would be just next level immersion.
Yeah, it really is
right there.
I have that same wheel, and it's a great wheel and pedal setup. And you can fine tune how much force feedback you get and how much reaction there is in the wheel. It's just so customizable.
Yeah, it really is amazing to, you do feel like you're on the track. So it's very real. So after that initial getting everything kind of set up, and Paul and Paul's very generous with his time. I really appreciated him taking the time to get us started and to get things going. And we spent probably an hour one Saturday morning just going through iRacing, and riding in a car with Paul, as you said, either in the car or as a helicopter or whatever. It's an amazing system. It's so detailed.
Mm-hmm.
So that was tremendous. And from there, I probably need to spend a little more time at it than I do through the week. I try to learn the tracks. I've never driven on any of these tracks, like most people probably haven't. So through the week until Thursday, when you get some other cars out there, I'm doing decent lap times, throw some cars into the mix. Suddenly that changes very quickly. Just, the traffic and that sort of thing. So, it's just a learning curve, and it's like anything, right? It's just time and practice. But I'm finding myself, when I'm not racing and I have a quiet moment, I'm thinking about racing. I'm thinking about, all those corners that I mangled at Daytona on Sunday night, that I'd like to have a do-over, just trying to figure it out, right? And it's been really a great distraction.
That's great.
Yeah.
So what are a couple of tips that you would have for somebody getting into it?
Yeah, I think the best thing to do is definitely talk to somebody that's doing it, Paul, or anybody that that's racing, and really, just so you're not kind of starting from zero. I think that's a big help for sure. And I think
Make sure you have a son that knows PCs.
He does, yeah. And that, from the technical side, I just said, make me whatever you need to make me.
Yeah.
And he made a good system, that was quick, a good graphics card, things like that. He knows what he's doing, and it really wasn't a lot of money. I think it was all in, he was maybe at about $1,100, and I think it's a pretty good system. Not everyone can make a system, but so maybe it's a couple $100 more to get one that's already made, but it's not a huge investment. And if you do it kind of right the first time, you're not going to have to upgrade down the road. It's already done, so it should last me, for a long time. So that was key to get a good system. And then going forward, I think it's just taking advantage of the programs that are out there, the DE programs, and the racing. And iRacing has, Paul, you had mentioned this. I haven't taken part yet, but I know some guys have in the Mazda MX-5 series, where you really learn with people that are at a same skill level as you, and it's kind of a graduated system of licensing, almost, if you will. And I think the depth of this is significant when you really get past just scratching the surface of it. There's a lot going on here. You could spend a lot of time going through things and racing as much or as little as you want. So
awesome. Well, thanks, Matt, and thanks, Paul. thanks for starting the league and
Oh,
for
thank
sharing
you.
your knowledge in this episode. Really appreciate it. And again, if anyone wants to join the league, they
can reach out to me at paul@neto.me, or just go to the UCR website, and under driving there is a bunch of information for the sim racing.
excellent. Thanks, guys.
Okay, thank you.
We'll see you on the track.
Thanks very much, guys.
Okay, bye now.
Yeah, bye-bye.